Welcome to the Gameweek 32 Q&A episode. The first question comes from Huzaifa, who asks, which non-double game week players are worth bringing in for the next 2 weeks on the Wildcard? This will depend on which chips you have remaining to navigate the future double game weeks and blank game week 35. Most FPL managers will be likely to keep Salah and use Aubameyang as a placeholder for Lukaku or Kane, so those are the two names that immediately spring to mind. Some cheaper enablers from Swansea or Newcastle could be an option, especially for those who don't have the free hit chip left. Those teams will play in Game Week 35 and then are likely to have a double Game Week 37. Arnautovic could be a differential option due to being out of position and playing as a forward. West Ham face Stoke at home in Game Week 34, his former club, and they've got a fixture in Game Week 35 and a likely double Game Week 37. So again, that could be an option to consider for those without a free hit. Youssef asks, what if I've used all my chips? How should I move forward? If you've used all your chips, you're likely to have to make some compromises going forwards, so decide where you'd prefer to make those. For example, will you aim for less double game week players in Game Week 34 in order to be able to field more players in Game Week 35? Burnley players could be useful, as they feature in double Game Week 34 and also have a fixture in Game Week 35. Leicester players are also ones to focus on. They don't play in Game Week 35, but they have good remaining fixtures and feature in both double game weeks. Finally, as mentioned in the previous question, Arnautovic and Swansea or Newcastle players may be options to consider, as they each have a single home fixture in Game Week 34, play in Game Week 35, and then have a likely double Game Week 37. Big Cliffs on Fire asks, what strategy would you recommend for those with all chips and wildcards still available? The most common strategy will still be to use the wildcard in Game Week 32, the bench boost in 34, the free hit in Game Week 35, and then the triple captain chip in Game Week 37. But there are a few variations for this. For example, you might decide to use the triple captain chip in Game Week 34, using your free transfers after that to prepare for the bench boost in 37. That double game week will involve more teams than Game Week 34, but it may come with extra risk of rotation, given how late during the season it is. Essentially, there isn't a right or wrong way to use the chips. As long as you have a plan for how you're going to use them, and stick to it, you're likely to make up some ground in the remaining weeks. The Ghost of Sparta asks, should I or should I not double up on Arsenal? Aubameyang certainly looks like a player we can rely on for the next couple of games, and potentially beyond that, depending on your chip strategy. However, the other players from Arsenal may be at a higher risk of rotation, due to them still competing in the Europa League. Aubameyang is of course unable to play in that competition. Ramsey has already been rested for a couple of Premier League games around the Europa League match, and the concern is that a similar thing could happen to Mkhitaryan, although it hasn't so far. So ultimately it is a risk, but Mkhitaryan looks like the slightly safer pick from the two. However, you could consider alternatives such as Heung-min Son or Willian, who are both around that price range. Aaron asks, which among the two do I start? Walcott versus Man City or Shaqiri versus Arsenal? It's a tough one. They both have tricky fixtures, but they're players who can easily turn up and get a return on their day. Over the last 4 game weeks, Walcott's perhaps looked the more likely to do damage, despite the pair each providing just the 1 FPL return over that period. He's been involved in 4 big chances and has created 2 big chances, while Shaqiri hasn't delivered in either of those areas and has taken just the 1 goal attempt from inside the box. Having said that, Man City have kept clean sheets in 3 of their last 4 games, conceding just the 1 goal and just the 1 big chance, so their defence has been incredibly solid. Arsenal have shipped 6 goals in the same time frame, and only West Ham and Bournemouth have conceded more big chances. So all in all, it's a pretty 50-50 choice, but I'd be tempted to gamble on Shaqiri, primarily because of Man City's impressive defence, and also because he's their key man for creating and scoring chances, even though goals have been hard to come by for them. And the final question for this episode comes from Stavra, who asks, for those who have only the triple captain chip, when is the perfect time to use it? It's generally safer to use it in a double game week, because you give the player 2 chances to get a return. In Game Week 34, unless Harry Kane returns from injury in time, you'll probably be looking at Romelu Lukaku for the armband, with fixtures at home to West Brom and away to Bournemouth. But it's looking likely that Harry Kane will be back in time for Game Week 37, where Spurs are likely to have a second double game week, taking on West Brom away and Newcastle at home. So for those with the triple captain chip remaining, that looks like a very tempting time to use it, given that Kane will be in need of a few goals to chase Mohamed Salah in the race for the Golden Boot.